Hey everyone, it's Angus. It's Monday morning. I thought I'd do a quick video on how I use the TradingView screener to try and find trading opportunities. These are for more quick short-term trades. I'm really looking for stocks that are, sort of making a fairly good gain on volume. My goal is to try and, jump in on these stocks, as the rest of the market does, and ride them for a brief period of time while I can. You can see here what I've tried to do is I don't know how everyone else's charts are set up. I've changed my TradingView thing so many times that it's hard to know where it's up to. But what I thought I'd do is you can see that I've gone back to a pretty basics layout. I trade the ASX for anyone who's following me from the US or other markets, but you can literally change it to whatever you like. The only thing you need to change is this little symbol down here, which shows you what market you're trading. So if you want to have a look at the US type stocks, you click on the little US flag. If you want to go back to the ASX, click on the the little map of Australia, or the flag of Australia rather. And so that's just you can very quickly flick between your different markets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically reset up TradingView how I like to do it, and I'll go through it fairly quickly. And if you want to set up your own, just pause and replay the video if you're not quite sure what I'm doing. But it's very, very straightforward. There's a few little tricky things you need to know, but other than that, it's all pretty straightforward. So normally when you have TradingView, it comes with these sort of default tabs across the top. What I'll do is I'm going to get rid of them all. So all I do is I undo this little star here, and that just gets rid of the default views that TradingView has provided. So I'll get rid of all those. Now you can see across here, there's nothing left. And so what I want to do is I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it save columns as. I'm just going to call it Angus, I don't know, quick wins or something. Go save. Now the important thing is that this left-hand one here basically keeps track of all your columns, and this right-hand side one here keeps track of your filters. So it's really, really important that you save both, and there'll be a little asterisk that pops up, to let you know if you haven't saved, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to go and make this one a star, so basically save it as a favorite, and you can see it appears here. So what you can do is have multiple views with multiple columns, and you can switch between them to look at different things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove all of these. Remove column. Remove column. Remove column. Remove column. Remove column. You don't have to remove them all. You can obviously keep the ones that you think you like the look of, but it's just for the point of this exercise, I'll show you how I set things up. And again, you can set up however you like, but this will just give you an idea of how things might work. Remove column. Remove column. And remove column. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save. You can't remove this one. These are obviously the ones that can't be moved. But I'm going to change. I'm going to save this one. I'm going to go save screens as. And I like to call them the same thing, so I'll call this one Angus Quick Wins. Save. And so see how this one here is now an asterisk, which means that I haven't saved this column setup. So even though there's nothing there, I'm just going to go save columns as Angus Quick Wins. And so the little asterisk has gone away. So you can see that this is now pretty well a blank setup. So there's different ways to add in the columns that you can go through and choose. One way is to click on this column setup, and you literally can scroll through here and find all the things that you want to add. The other way is to click on filters, and you can go through the screen. I presume this pop-up will appear when I'm doing my screencast, but and you can go through and you can say, well, I want descriptive or fundamental or technical filters, and you can go through all these ones here. So that's just a couple of different ways of doing it. So what I'm going to do is close this. I'm going to make this maximum, I'm going to click on this one here because I'm just going to scroll through and pick all the ones that I sort of recognize. So things like 1 month high, 1 month low, you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'll probably forget to add half of them. I like to see things like percentage changes, ADX, average true range, average volume. I use those a lot. So I'm going to select industry. I'm going to go last price. You can see it starts to add them up here. Market cap, I don't care. But monthly performance. I think I want monthly performance. Net income, number of employees, number of shareholders. Pattern's quite interesting. I'm going to select it. I'm not saying to use it, but I'm just going to show you what it is for the purpose of this video. Positive directional, post-market, price to book, price to earnings, quick ratio, rate of change, rating. It's not overly important, but I'll select it. Relative volume is the main one that I'm looking for this particular type of scan. Relative volume basically tells you how the stock's volume is performing. I think it's for the last, it's basically today's volume versus the last 10 days or last 20 days, something like that. But it's basically just showing that there's more volume on average today than there has, or for whatever the period is, than there has been in the past periods. Sector, I'm going to add sector. Simple moving averages. Volume, I'm not so much concerned about volume. I'm going to have weekly performance, yearly performance, average day range. So I want to have average volume 90 days, which is approximately 3 months. What else have I got? Change. I might have change. But you can see, you can just scroll through this list and there's bucket loads of things that you can add. I don't know why he's gone over there. It's made my life a bit harder. EBITDA is sometimes useful. Like if I'm trying to buy stocks for a more conservative type portfolio, like my super fund, then I'll use the EBITDA and I'll basically, get rid of any stocks that don't have a significantly positive EBITDA. Like I might say, only show me stocks with a $1 million or greater EBITDA, or $100 million, or if I'm buying US stocks, I actually set that to 1 billion. I don't buy any stocks that aren't making it, or that don't have an EBITDA of $1 billion a year. I think every time I look at this, I'm sure there's more than there were last time I looked. All right, let's see how I've gone. So I'll just shrink this one over a bit. So what I want to do is I've got the last price. I want to have, that's not the right change because I want the percentage. So I want weekly performance. I'm going to move over here. You can see I just move it by dragging. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I might put the rating up here. Relative volume, I'm going to move the sector right up here. Did I move the sector? Sector. Sometimes they take a little bit of convincing to drag around. So I've got the sector, I've got the industry. I've got the current price, basically. I've got the rating, I'll move him across one. I've got the weekly performance. I've got the monthly performance. I've got the yearly performance. I've got the relative volume. I've got the average volume. And I got the wrong change. I've got the change as a dollar amount instead of a percentage. So I'm going to get rid of that one by going remove column. I'm going to see if I can find him in here. Change, I'll just type in change. See, I've got change percent, that's the one I wanted. Oh, that one there. You got a crazy amount of things, change 1 hour, 1 minute, percentage, value, whatever you like. So I'm going to drag this across here to the right. So I've got weekly, monthly. I'd like to have 3 monthly. And so that's obviously performance. It's consistent with the others. So 3 monthly performance. I'll move him across to here. Right, and so this is pretty much how I like to have it set up for these types of scans. Change needs to go across to the front of the queue. Right. Now, I'll just show you a pattern just very quickly for funsies, and I'm going to delete it because I don't trade this way, but for some of you out there who like to, look for, certain bullish or bearish type setups, TradingView does allow you to have a limited amount of patterns where, you can basically select it and filter by shares that meet this particular type of pattern. And again, there's definitely more in there than the last time I looked. But you could basically say, show me all the stocks where they have a morning star appearing in the pattern. You can see it's 1989 down to no matches. So there's nothing in there that meets that criteria. Kicking bullish. So there's 5 matches for kicking bullish. I don't even know what kicking bullish is, but I'm sure Google can work it out for you and you'll find out. But anyway, it's just a different way. If you like any of these types of patterns, it's a different type of scan that you can run. There's a site called swingtradebot.com, which is basically a ultimate pattern scanner, and it's very, very good. And I'll use it to find Bollinger breakouts and things like that. So there's certain types of patterns that I will look for, but I do that through a site called Swing TradeBot, which is just basically this scan on steroids. So it's massive. Right, we'll get rid of him. I better go get rid of that filter. You can just click on that, that little symbol on the right to get rid of any filtered stocks. So I'm going to get rid of him altogether. Remove column. I have this here set to 1 day. Now you can see here there's a little asterisk, so I need to save it. So save columns as Angus Quick Wins. I'm going to go save. And so I've basically got the stock code and the name. I've got the sector it's in, the industry it's in, what the TradingView rating is, and that's just basically a summary of about 13, 14 different indicators, and I can show you that in a sec. I've got basically the last price, so what the current price is. I've got the weekly. I've got the change, which is basically the change, the percentage change that's happened today. I've got the weekly performance, monthly performance, 3 monthly performance, and yearly performance. And I just sort of consider those my, short-term, medium-term, longer-term indicators. The most important one that I've got on this sheet is relative volume, and I've got average volume. And so what I want to do is I want to look for any stocks where the relative volume is above 1. And sometimes I'll set this to show me, the ones that are above 2, but above 1 is good. So it basically means that their relative volume is 100% greater than what it was in the previous period. You can see I also want to set the percent change. I want to go above 2%. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for stocks where they've got extra volume coming through compared to the previous period, and they've got a 2% or greater increase in their price. So, there's something happening with these stocks. I might also sometimes go into here and I'll say, I've got 74 matches, so I've still got heaps of matches, but I'll go in here and I'll say, well, show me the stocks where, they've increased by, greater than 20% over 12 months if I'm looking for more conservative stocks. Or I might say if I'm looking for more bullish stocks, I might say, show me where, the percentage increase is greater than 20% over 3 months. And so I might do that with this one. So I'll go above 20. You can see it goes from 74 down to 23. So that's a more manageable universe for me. So it's easy for me to flick through those. I'll sort by this relative volume. And so this basically says, here's the stocks of the volumes going nuts. And the other filter that I'll do sometimes is I'll say, well, you can see here, I want the average 90-day volume is just displayed here. But sometimes I'll say, only show me stocks where the average 90-day volume is, greater than, I don't know, 50K. So I'll change that to say 50,000. And so it gets rid of all those, really tiny little pennies that, don't get so actively traded. And we'll click on that. And so relative volume is there. I'm going to shrink this one back down. And so go back to my charts. Now, the main thing that I like to look at when I'm trading these sorts of stocks is I'll go to I'll turn on a Bollinger Band. Like I like to have a Bollinger Band. So I'll go indicators. So I'm basically looking at stocks that are trading at the top of their Bollinger Band. So I'll add Bollinger Band in. The other thing that's important to me is I want to see stocks that are breaking out, where they've gone over their 30-day average volume. So on my volume chart here, I'm going to change this to 30 days. I'll go OK. But to get a better view of that, I like to have what's called an OBV, which is the on balance volume. So I'll click indicators and I'll go OBV, which is the built-in TradingView indicator. So I'll plug him in. And then, as I always do, I will add a 30-day moving average to this one. I'll go add indicator. And I'll go moving average. And these sort of scans are something that you can do, before the market opens, while the market's open, whenever you like. So, once you've got it set up, you just basically save all your columns and headings and charts, and you never have to do it again. So I've got a moving average 30-day. I'm just going to click on this little symbol here. And I'm going to say make him red, because I just like to have my stoplight system where green is good, red is bad. So I'm going to say red, make it a bit thicker so it's easy to see, click OK. And then on my OBV, I'm going to say this one's good, so make him green, make it a little bit thicker. It's already thicker, go OK. And so what I'm looking for is I'm looking for stocks where this green line crosses above the red line. And so the default stock that I had was BHP. And so when I go down to here, this EZL, Euros, whatever that is, investment banking and brokerage, you can see here, see how I've got a strong uptick. I've got a strong breakout of volume, and you can see the volume here is quite good. So the volume is basically broken out. It's above its moving average. You can see that it's starting to get close to that upper Bollinger Band. It's gone up in price only 3.6%. So that could be a good stock, to shortlist. I'll open up my little, this is my watch listing here. And so when I look at this particular stock, I think, that could be interesting. If I sort of scroll back a bit, that's back to sort of August last year, had a bit of a high there. And so when I look at this stock, I'd be saying, well, turn on some of my drawing tools. That's just a little star that turns on my preset drawing tools. And I've made a video on how I, add these to this little thing, so I won't go through that again. But, what I'd do is I'd click on something like, my little horizontal ray, and I'd say, well, look, there's obviously some sort of point of resistance around here. It's tried to sort of, break through that a few times. I'll make him red because red's bad, so red's resistance. And so you can see the stocks, it's sort of gone up, touched it, hasn't sort of made it through, broke out the next day, but then came back down, didn't like to make it through, tried again, didn't make it through, tried again, didn't make it through. It sort of had a bit of a retrace, and now it's starting to go back up. So, what I'd then do is I'd flick across to ComSec, and I'd want to have a look at this stock and see how much, volume is on the buy side. And if there was a significant number of buyers versus sellers, then it's a stock that I might trade. So, what I'll do is I'll right click and I'll go add to watch list, EZL, And so you can see that's now in my watch list. So this is one that I've kind of shortlisted for now, and I'll go back to it and after I finish going through some of these and have a better look at it. If you look through here, it's been reasonably good. Like it's yearly performance hasn't been great, but it's up 20% over the last 3 months. So it probably hasn't grown as much as I'd like to see it over a 3-month period. 1 week performance around 2%. Today it's up 3.6. So it hasn't really done much. So it doesn't excite me as a stock because you can see if I held it in July last year compared to July this year, it really hasn't done any, or April, May this year, whatever we're up to, it really hasn't done much. So it's a stock that if I'd held it all that period, I wouldn't have made any money off it. So I'm not overly excited about it, but it's one to have a quick look at, and maybe there's a couple of points in it. But what I'd then do is I'd drop down to my 15-minute timeline and see what's happening more closely. And so you can see here, it has sort of broken through this resistance mark, and it is sort of sitting up around here. So, it's starting to look like it's going to use this line of support. You can see it's broken above it. It's come back down. It's gone back up. It's sort of starting to use that line now as what looks like support. So I'll go back to my daily chart. So that one's not too bad. I probably spent more time on that one than on what I would normally, but you can see down here, this is some of the sectors and industries. I haven't got an asterisk there, so that one's okay. But see how I've got an asterisk here now. So I need to make sure I click on that, and I go save screens as Angus Quick Wins, because this is saving all these filters here that I've already pre-set up. And so what I might do is I might go sector, because I like my discovery type stocks. And so what I'll do is I'll go down to healthcare and technology. And you can see I've now got 5 stocks. So these are the stocks that I more prefer to try and trade. Rhythm Biosciences. So you can see, he's got some great volume. There's a great uptick there. So that's one that I definitely want to have a better look at. You can see that there's been a bit of a resistance point around here. It's managed to break up above that a couple of times, but you can see it's touched it there. It's touched it there, hasn't got through, and it's starting to come through now. So again, that's an interesting stock. And what I'll sometimes do is I'll have a look a bit further back, and so I can see that this stock in the past has been trading up around that 33-cent type mark. And so what I might do is if I get my array and I'll give them a tick around here, it doesn't really matter where, it's just more of an indicator. But then what I do is I then get this one here and I say, well, from where it is now roughly to up to here, there's roughly a 20% gain or 25% gain. So if it can make it back up to its old highs, there's a good little opportunity in there. So again, you can see there's some spiky volume coming through. There's something happening with this stock. So I'll add it to my watch list and, go and have a better look on ComSec, which is, where I trade, just to see what's happening on the volume side and whether there's any announcements. Servtech. Geez, that's interesting. Like it looks like a bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze going on when you sort of zoom out that far. Like there's just nothing happening with that stock. But when you zoom in a bit closer, you can see it is a little bit all over the place. There's a little bit of volume coming through, but this isn't one that I'd be excited to trade. You can see that it's down over the course of the year. It's had a bit of a bump over the last 3 months, but it's not one that I would want to trade. It seems to be more of a long-term loser than a winner. IHR, again, sort of lumpy volume. You can see that there's been significant volume spikes in the past, and it hasn't really done anything with them. It's trading below the upper bottom, trading below the middle Bollinger Band, so it might go up a little bit, but not one that I'm excited about. You can see that the green line's about to cross over the red line, so there could be something in there happening. You could argue that it's been up around this point before. If I go that one, you can see it sort of gets stuck around this point here. So if I say, well, what's the opportunity from there to there? No, it's not too bad. It's saying it's a 70-odd% opportunity. I guess to go from 11 cents to 20 cents. So maybe there's more in that than what I think. I don't know what would make it go back up to here, but you can see that it does seem to have support down around this point here. If I said it's gone down to here, it's come back up, it's gone back down, touched it, gone back down, touched it, gone back down, touched it. So if I drew another line, maybe roughly around here, turn my little liney thing on. And maybe you can see that line's meant to sort of be at the top of that one. So, the top of where the current price point is roughly. It's just always rough. But you can see that, there's still roughly a 60 odd percent, 70%, 76% opportunity if it went back up to this, previous point of resistance. And if I shorten that, I go more conservatively and I say, well, it does sometimes get back up to this point here, because you can see it's sort of, it's touched there, it's touched there, it's touched there-ish. Well, that's still 30% in that. So, based on that, it's definitely a stock that I might look at having another think about, although I dismissed it when I first looked at it because it hasn't done much. It's having a good little run at the moment, but it's only up 25% for the year and it's down, for these periods here. So if I get my little array and I say, well, let's pretend that, that's not a bad sort of resistance point there. And so there's a few percentages in it. So there's obviously, 30% or so if it does rally and, come back up to these levels. I'd trade this one, but what I'd do is again, as always, I'd go and I'd check the volume to see if there's anything happening on the demand side. And I would run probably a 5%, 7%, trailing sell on it just to make sure if the trade went the wrong way, I'd get out. So right click and go add to watch list. So that could be interesting. IPD, I've bought and sold this one bucket load of times and made some good money on it. Again, we go back, we have a bit of a look, sort of a long-term loser at the moment, but you can see there's been a bit of news or, something that's come through there. Earnings has come through, so it's gone a little bit up. So there's a bit of volume coming through here, and so it's definitely broken out. It's definitely having a bit of a run. So again, I do like the look of that. It's past these resistance points here. So if I said my little ray and I drew him, roughly through here, so you can see that, the big wicks of some of these candles, if I zoom in a bit, it's sort of hit there, come back down, it's hit there, come back down, try to stay there, it's hit there, come back down, it's hit there, it's come back down. But you can see it keeps trying to burst up through it. You can see coming back down this way, and then we've had a bit of a push through, a bit more volume coming through, and so I would probably give this one a very, very good look. And so I'll go right click and I'll go add to watch list. Next one is Tiny Beans. I think that's the last one. I always read about Tiny Beans. They seem to have some fairly good PR machine behind them. So again, classic sort of a breakout. It's been around this price point before. If I look back, to sort of August 2017, and in fact, if I get my little ray and I say, well, let's put a dot at the top of that one, because you can see it's basically got to there, fallen back away, it's got to there, fallen back away, and we're back up there now with quite good volume and quite good momentum. So with this one here, again, he looks interesting. Like it might hit this and fail. You can see it's tried to push through yesterday, it's come back down. It's trying again today, so I'd like to know more about, what news or announcement Tiny Beans, put out. And so I'll go right click and I'll go add to watch list. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 stocks that, I'll have a good look at today and, see if I want to, invest in any of them. I'll shrink. I don't have to get rid of that. There's more things you can do. Like sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, get rid of any stocks that are, only show me stocks where they're above 0.01. So I don't have to trade the, 0.001 type stocks. And equally, I can say just show me stocks below $1. So it's quite interesting, how you can change it to get different views of stocks. But as I said, these are the ones I'll have a quick look at. If I don't know what any of these are, you can do things like you can click on technical analysis. And so when I was saying below down here, how, this rating is just basically a summary, of all these indicators. So, it looks at all these different oscillators and says, based on this particular, stochastic or some oscillator or momentum indicator, whatever they happen to be. We reckon it's a sell or it's neutral, it's a buy or it's a neutral. With these moving averages, it's buy, 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 buy. There's information like pivots where you can sort of, sometimes people use stop losses and they'll use them for support and resistance type points. But you can see here, it's basically saying the moving averages, which is this row, is saying it's a strong buy. The oscillators are saying it's neutral, but overall it looks like a buy. There's 18 buy signals versus 2 sells and 8 neutrals, and so sometimes this is useful in trying to help you with some of your decision making. Just gives you a sort of a different view of what the, I guess, all the different trading tools are and what they're saying about where the stock is likely to go. You can look at different time periods, and so you can see that if I move across, it's fairly consistently a buy. It's still a buy on the 15-minute, and it's still a buy on the 5-minute, and so it's quite a good looking stock at this stage. I'll then go down here. I can click on more, and it tells me a little about what it is. Tiny Beans is an Australian-based company, owns and operates mobile web-based social media platform, blah, blah, blah. You can see things like the market cap. I often go down, I look at things like EBITDA. So the EBITDA is pretty bad. But, again, with these penny type stocks, you expect that. Again, if I was trading in my super portfolio, then I use this a lot more. I definitely look more at the financials, and I'll trade differently. I won't be looking for these speculative type stocks. I'll be looking for stocks where I sort them by EBITDA, and I'll have a completely different setup here that'll be more financially oriented. I'll basically say things like, average volume over 90 days, I want it to be 1 million. Relative volume, I don't care about, because the super stocks are big buy and holds for a long period. 3-month moving average I'll look at, and I'll have things like, for my super portfolio, the yearly performance must be greater than 30%, for example, because I want stocks that are still going up quite hard. I won't buy anything typically under $1. And I'll be less sensitive about what sector I select. So the quick wins column is saved. This one here I'm going to save, screens as, save. And there's other things you can do too. Like you can say, well, this stock here is interesting, but I don't know how it's going to go. And so what I'll do is I don't want to buy that stock unless it gets to, unless it does break out through this and, gets to say $1.28. And so all I have to do is I can right click and I can go add an alert here. And I can say when this code is crossing a value of around, what do I say, $1, I don't know, let's make it $1.25, 1.25. Then I can say, notify me on the app. If I'm on my phone, I'm using an app. I can say show a pop-up. I can say send me an email. There's a whole bunch of different types of alerts and indicators. I can say look to buy, and in that way I can forget about this stock, and I can move away from it. And all that happens is, when I eventually come back to it, I'll see that there's an alert to say when it's gone over a certain amount, maybe look to buy. And if I delete this resistance line here, so you can see there's a little orange line now that's appeared, and if I highlight that, I'll click on it, it'll tell me that that's an alert in theory. Yeah, so we go, alert. So I know that I've got an alert on that particular stock. And then there's alerts in here. They sometimes they expire after a period of time, but it's good to set alerts. You can also set them for sell signals. So you can say, well, that's gone quite well, but if it broke down below 0.825 and I was holding it, then get rid of it. The other thing you can do too is these change all the time. So instead of looking at a day view, you can look at a 15-minute view. And so I've got probably some different stocks in here. So BCT, I don't think it was one that we had before on our list. BCT, Angus, no. So BCT's there. So there's nothing really happening there. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I look at my 15-minute chart. Yeah, there's nothing. There's a little bit of volume, but nothing I'm excited about on that one. ANP. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of a blip there. So you can see that that's, there's something happening there in the last 15 minutes. So if I select, go back to my day view, just to see what's happening, bigger picture. Yeah, so there's something going on there. So a couple of days of good volume. It's been fairly flat. So I can see it, I'd look at down here, I'd go a little liney. I'd say that, that's probably not a bad resistance type point. Looks like it's definitely broken above that. So again, going back to my 15-minute type view, yeah, you can see, it looks like it's starting to use this now as a support. It's sort of gone up, it's come back, it's tested it a couple of times and, managed to stay above it. So, again, that's a stock that I think that I would, want to have a much better look at. Again, go to my broker and see what's happening on the volume side, on the buy side. So go add to watch list. What's next? AMP and Yoji. I've traded this one a lot of times as well. What's he up to? D per day. Yeah, a little bit of a break. You can see sometimes, these stocks when they do start to break above this top Bollinger, and the Bollinger is just basically it's effectively a moving average to some extent. So you can see when it has broken above it, it does tend to, run a little bit. So this could be an interesting one as well, just to have a look at. The volume here is nothing special, so I don't think I'd do anything with this one, in fact, but you can see it's getting close to that 10-cent type mark. So, they do tend to, use round figures like 10 cents and $1, and, $10 is a fairly strong type of resistance area from my experience. Again, you can see that if I drew my little line, from sort of like a high point here, it sort of touched there, come back down, it's hit it, come back down, it sort of got close, come back down, and now it does seem to be testing it again. So again, this could be one to watch, but not overly excited, just because I don't like that the volume is not there. My OBV green is well and truly below my red. And again, I can set an alert here, so I can say, add an alert on the OBV indicator. That was the wrong one. Add alert on OBV. And I can say when the OBV is crossing, I should have an crossing the 30-day OBV, then send me an alert. So I'm saying the on-balance volume, so the green line is crossing the red line, send me an alert. And so that way, again, I don't have to continue to watch this one. All I have to do is wait until I get an alert to say, well, the green line's crossing the red line, which means that there's, better than average volume coming through, and maybe have a better look at that stock. So that's on the 15-minute type chart. So when you're actively trading, you can click on this little refresh down here, and that sort of then has a look to see if anything new's come through. But the other thing you can do is you can click on the refresh interval and see how you can have it so it automatically refreshes every 10 seconds, or automatically refreshes every minute. And so I can just tick that and see how the little countdown started. So again, I can go off and do my work in the background and not be looking at any of these stocks, and all that happens is I'll get a beep or an alert if there's a new stock that gets added to this list, every 15 minutes when it checks it again, or basically every minute. But on the 15-minute chart, if something else pops through, then I automatically get a little bell or a whistle that goes off, and I can then come back and have a look at this stock again. So it's probably a bit longer than what I thought it might take. I don't know how long this video is, but I hope that's a useful way of seeing how you might be able to set up the scanners or the screener, and then how to use it to find stocks that have got a bit of a volume spike coming through during trading. And as I said, you can set up as many of these as you like. So I've got ones in here for momentum. I've got ones just as a general overview. If I click overview, you can see here that that's where I look at things like the market cap and the EBITDA and the revenue. And so these are things that I might use when I'm looking at my more expensive type stocks. The other one that I do is I go. I have a thing called reset, which basically I go down here. I go reset, and so this is one that I added. And all it basically does is it keeps all my columns, but it takes away all my filters. And so you can see here, I've got 2003 matches, which is, roughly how many stocks there are trading on the, ASX. If I make it a bit bigger for you. And so I can then do things like I can do, show me the percentage change. So I can say, show me the stocks today that have, had the biggest increase. And so you can see, here's some crazy ones where, scroll up. So, it's a 0.006 or a 0.003 stock. So these ones, to be fair, they don't have to do anything to move. If I look at the chart, that one, SPB, so, long-term downtrend, it wouldn't be anything that I'd be particularly interested in trading. This one here, again, even though it's gone up 50%, it's because it's only got to go up 0.001. So often I'll get rid of these. So I'll go, make it sure it's above 0.01. Hopefully give me slightly better quality stocks to look at. So again, all I'm doing is looking at what's the total percentage change. I'm not looking at volume. I'm not looking at anything else. So you can see that this one, has sort of had a bit of a sell-off, and it's made a bit of a recovery off the bottom of that. But again, not one that I would trade because the volume and interest from others just isn't there. OVQ. So again, it's had a big sell-off and it's recovered. So I do like to literally apply volume and make sure that the stocks that I'm interested in, other people are interested in as well. And I can see that there's good volume coming through. They're riding the top of the Bollinger Band, and hopefully their momentum will continue. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that, and I hope someone else finds it useful. So I'm going to take these stocks here and I'm going to go and plug them into my trading package and just have a look, at the volume, and the queue that's in the buyer side, and how many sellers are on the seller side, and then try and make a decision about whether they're worth trading or not. I hope that is useful. Thank you.